The Mercedes SLS AMG was a brilliant car. Stunning looks, iconic gull-wing doors, a massive 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8, a beautiful exhaust note. But honestly, it wasn't all that great to drive. It was much more of a GT cruiser, a highway cruiser, long sweepers, than it was a sports car. So when I heard that Mercedes was building, in their terms, a 911 killer, that piqued my interest. My problem with Mercedes has always been that they've cared more about drifting and burnouts and high-power rear-wheel drive machines that couldn't really go around corners unless you put in every ounce of effort that you could possibly exert. But the AMG GT promises to be different. So what makes it capable for the AMG GTR to lap the Nürburgring in 7 minutes, 10.9 seconds, 10 seconds faster than a 488 GTB? What allows it to handle so well and be just as fast as the SLS AMG, even though it has a lot less power? So here it is, guys. 5 reasons why the AMG GT is better than the SLS AMG. First off, it's lighter. This car is made of 93% aluminum in the body and chassis. And even cooler than that, in front of the engine, there's actually magnesium bits to further reduce the weight and help with turn-in. That means overall, the AMG GT is 123 pounds lighter than the SLS. And lighter weight means it's more fun in the corners. It means better fuel economy. It means better acceleration. Dropping weight is better for everything related to a sports car, and I applaud Mercedes for doing that. While the AMG GT isn't exactly an SLS successor, nor is it a successor to the SLR, it still stands as the flagship for a Mercedes brand in terms of performance. And getting it down to the 3,550, 3,600 pound range was definitely the right move. Making it 4,000 pounds and having tons of power is a recipe for a fast car in a straight line and perhaps drifting around turns, but not for something that's fun to carve in the canyons. And this is just absolutely magnificent through the turns. And that is not something I could have said about the SLS. Sure, the SLS is fun in the canyons, but this, it feels like it just wants to attack the road ahead of it. Oh my God. I know people are worried about the fact that it no longer has a naturally aspirated power plant. This has a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8, not a 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8. But I'd honestly say, I mean, this has a custom straight piped exhaust. This sounds better than the SLS did. Honestly, it does. And there is absolutely no noticeable turbo lag, none whatsoever. Completely linear, and you get that extra torque down low. And this, which I'll talk about later, has had some modifications done to it that make it a hell of a lot faster than an SLS AMG. Next is the new transmission. Still a 7-speed double clutch transmission, but it's been revised and it is so much better than that in the SLS. Now the SLS AMG had a 7-speed double clutch. It was somewhat fast when leaving it in automatic mode, put it in Sport Plus, floor it. But manual shifts left a lot to be desired. If you flicked down shifts, they were nowhere near instant, and sometimes it was so clunky that it would even deny you shifts. Sometimes taking off from a standstill, it lurched forward. This is brilliant. The new transmission in the AMG GT is wonderful. Downshifts are absolutely instant. You can flick through gears. Oh, so easily. And because the engine sounds so great, having a lightning fast transmission means you can actually get to experience those incredible burbly noises. Oh my goodness. The new transmission is part of why the AMG GT is able to have a similar 0 to 60 time as the SLS AMG with a lot less power. Now stock, this made 465 horsepower as compared to the SLS AMG, let's go with the version 1, 563. Both of them 0 to 60 in about 3.9 seconds. The AMG GTS gives you a bit more power, 503 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. The new transmission is part of what allows the AMG GT to have a similar 0 to 60 time as the SLS AMG, despite having in base form 456 horsepower as compared to the SLS's original 563. Both hit 0 to 60 in around 3.8, 3.9 seconds. You upgrade to the AMG GTS, which comes with more power and some other upgrades like an electronic rear differential instead of a mechanical locking differential. That does 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. Let's get to the fun part about this car. 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 stock, 456 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. One of the reasons why this car is better than the SLS AMG is because of that twin turbocharged setup. Now, it's a hot V layout. That means the twin turbos are mounted between the cylinder banks. That means the exhaust gases have to travel less distance. The exhaust gases can remain hotter. It's more efficient. There's less turbo lag. It's better in every single way. It can also be packaged as smaller. But because it is forced induction, that means that it's very easily modifiable. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, for $3,000-ish, you can tune this car from 456 horsepower to what it is sitting at right now. How much is that? 625 horsepower and 620 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, it is extremely fast. That is a hell of a lot more torque and more horsepower as well than the SLS AMG. Oh. This is wicked. And what's incredible is it's actually able to put the power down extremely well for a rear-wheel drive car. You floor it in first gear and it hunkers down and takes off. The same could not be said about the SLS. It was more of a burnout, tail-happy machine, which is fun in its own right, but of course you can do something similar with this when you turn traction control off. But when you leave it on and you put it in Sport Plus mode, it's just so much more fun to drive. Next up is the value of an AMG GT. Base price $111,200. Compared to the SLS, which was over $200,000, that's a pretty good deal. Think about it. For 111 grand, you get 456 horsepower. That's quite a bit. Spend a couple grand, then you've got 625 horsepower, and that is a hell of a lot. You're still coming in around 90, 80K short of an SLS AMG, and even used prices on the SLSs, I just checked, you can't really get one for less than 135K, and the ones that you can get for that, you don't really want. The better SLSs are more in the $185,000 plus range. This car feels like a hybrid between a 911 Carrera S and a Jaguar F-Type R, except in my opinion, it is more fun and it is better than both. It comes in at a similar price point to the 911 as well as the F-Type R, but something about it is just more special. You don't see a lot of these on the road, and that's kind of a bummer because it is such a brilliant car. Value-wise, I honestly think this is one of the best cars for the money on the market right now. And honestly, after driving this, I kind of want to look at used prices because, whew, I wouldn't mind picking one of these up. Lastly, it's just so much more fun to drive than the SLS. Let's start with the seating position. Finally, you don't have an enormous hood that you can't see over. Yes, it's a pretty large hood. You've got a big V8 in the front there, but you can actually see the road ahead of you and place the car. The steering feel, it's a little bit light for my liking. I think they could firm it up a little bit, but it is much better than the SLS's. There's no dead spot in the middle. The car responds instantly, especially when you put it into one of the 4 driving modes. In the AMG GT, you have individual, comfort, sport, and sport plus, and then in the AMG GTS, you have race mode. We don't have race mode here, but you know what? We don't really need it. The pedal feel is better as well. The throttle response feels instant. The brake, it's not too touchy, but it's very confidence-inspiring. The visibility is pretty similar to the SLS. It feels kind of like you're in a low-slung tank. You've got decent rear visibility, a massive sunroof here that makes it feel less claustrophobic. Inside, you've got a massive center console that wraps around you, so it does feel like you're in a cockpit. It doesn't feel like there's all that much space in here. But you know what, at 5'11", with the seat up a little bit, I do have plenty of leg room and plenty of headroom. I've been driving this car non-stop for the last few hours, and all I want to do is rip on it harder and harder. I want to upshift, downshift, throw it through turns, go full throttle, explore the limits of this car. And as you push it harder and harder, it just becomes more of a joy to drive. And for that, that's really special in a car. Hopping in, having expectations for it, being absolutely blown away, and not wanting to do anything else today other than continue to drive it around, that's something that doesn't happen all that often. And I'm really, really impressed with the AMG GT. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. I posted ahead of time that I was reviewing this car, and I'll give some information about it at Vehicle Virgins. Like and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.